Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our recorded version of the keynote for North Orange County Community College District Fall 2024 Flex. I would like to begin by sincerely apologizing for some of the technical issues that arose during that live session that did not allow all of the faculty to join us in that live session. But we wanted to let you know that this new keynote is going to be a bit of a mashup between the keynote, the morning session, and the afternoon session to make up for not being able to participate in some of those large group activities, and so that you can walk away with a substantial toolkit to be able to apply as soon as you enter into those classrooms and some of the know-how for generative AI. So without further ado, please welcome, innovate, educate, and elevate leveraging AI for academic excellence. And just to go ahead and get us started, my name is Ashley Berry. And for those of you who don't know me, I spent about 8 years coordinating an affinity group over at Cypress College. And recently, about a year ago, left to pursue my dream of being a faculty member. I'm currently an adjunct faculty at a couple of our neighboring colleges in the social sciences department. Specifically, I teach psychology. I am also the CEO and founder of the Higher Ed Institute, which is an organization that brings together faculty from all different disciplines to talk about universal design, equity and inclusion, and teaching with tech, which is what we're going to be focused on today. And I'm very excited to bring some of the knowledge and know-how that myself and Zola have been researching over the past few months and share that with you. And I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zola Aponte, and I have been working in higher education since 2009, starting over at Fullerton College, and then started working at Cypress in 2014. About 2 years ago, I left my classified position over at Cypress, and then I transitioned into teaching sociology also at Cypress. And I have been working with Ashley at the Higher Ed Institute as a consultant for about a year and a half now, and we have presented together on various AI-related and teaching topics for educators all over the US, and that has been a really exciting and fulfilling experience. I'm also involved in several AI communities for educators and have been considered a thought leader in many of these spaces, which is where I have learned a lot of the amazing stuff that we are, some of those things we're bringing to you today. We're very excited to be here, and we'll hope that you'll find this presentation valuable. So in today's session, like we mentioned, it is a little bit of a mashup, but in general, these are some of the things that you are going to walk away with from today's session. So we will be looking at interpreting data related to the impact and future of AI in higher education and employment. We will look at identifying individual problems surrounding AI in education and develop collaborative solutions. And then we will look at articulating different types of AI tools and their unique functions in the context of education, as well as some additional things that we have decided to bring with us into this particular presentation. And we are sharing this QR code in several spaces of this presentation. So you can go ahead and click that, and then it will also be provided in a link for you as this presentation is being sent out. So what you are going to find here is, this is our link tree that we have. So when you scan that QR code, you will be prompted to go to this link tree. And within this link tree, we have included both of our resources that we have created specifically for today. We have also included the activities that we have been using both in the keynote and in the morning and afternoon session. So if you're wanting to check those out, you can do that. And then also the 2 videos that we will be presenting within our presentation today. This is the AI Prompts for Educators resource that we have created. So within here, you will have first some information on actually how to create prompt engineer, or how to prompt engineer. And then we also have several prompts within, so on lesson planning, activity prompts, SLO prompts, and so much more. You have over 30 ready to go prompts within here. And then this is our resource guide that we have created. So for here, you will have all of the different tools that we have incorporated that we think are very useful for us educators. And then below all of these links and informations, we also have some newsletters, some worthwhile reads, some sample policies, and some assignment examples. And finally, we want to also acknowledge that many tuning into this recording are still unfamiliar with AI tools, their functions, and how you as an instructor, can utilize these tools. So we want to make sure that you understand the language you might hear us speak about and the phrases you'll hear us say so that there's no confusion. So the first one is generative AI. So generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that can create new original content, such as conversations, stories, images, videos, and music by leveraging patterns and structures learned from existing data. And in your role as an instructor, generative AI can help you create text-based information, videos, slides, images, schedules, and even lyrics. And then large language models, such as ChatGPT, is a specific application of generative AI that you can chat with. So LLMs have the capability to respond to both your written and spoken requests, and will then produce new and original text based on the content that you are requesting. And then prompt engineering, that is the art of crafting effective interactions with generative AI tools, particularly large language models, to elicit desired outputs. Or to say it more plainly, it's the term that we use for creating a well thought out question or request for the AI model that you are currently working with, so that it will understand your needs as well as how you want it to engage with you. So for an example, if you are an instructor that is looking for ideas on new classroom engagement activities, you could ask AI specifically that. But if you do, you might get activities suitable for all kinds of different subjects and audiences. So prompt engineering then will help you refine your request so that the output will be specifically tailored to your class, topics, and audiences. Because if you were to ask a large language model something like, yes, I'm an instructor and I'm looking for ideas or creative ideas to engage my audience in my classroom, then it could give you activities for fifth graders. It could give you activities for a 300 level course and so forth, right? So with prompt engineering, we're just making sure that we are specific enough to get the desired output. The better the prompt, the better the output. And we are going to talk about the clarity model, which is the model that we are using when we are creating our prompts or when we are engaging in prompt engineering. And we will talk about that a little bit later within this presentation to teach you how to actually use these large language models to generate information within your own classroom experience.
Thank you, Zola. So we recognize that there has been a lot of buzz surrounding AI, and it's a hot topic in education and a lot of other industries. And I'd also like to acknowledge how many folks are skeptical at best and terrified at worst, mainly because the sort of consensus is this going to take my job, or is this going to atrophy the brains of our students, right? Are they not going to be able to engage in critical thinking because of the ease that this technology brings in terms of completing assignments that they would normally have to spend a great amount of time on? So I wanted to share, just to kind of give you an idea of what the future is looking like, I wanted to share this quote that came out of the U.S. Department of Education very recently in a report in 2023 that said, Educators must engage with AI technologies because they are rapidly becoming woven into the fabric of society and the workforce that our students will enter. And we'll talk about how important this is going to look for the workforce in a couple of slides as well. Avoiding or ignoring AI is no longer an option. We have an obligation to help students understand, apply, and critically analyze these tools. Now, this really is only the tip of the iceberg because there is research being published regularly that's pointing to the importance of understanding generative AI, and I'm going to share some of what that research looks like with you. So, as you all well know, any trend in education typically starts at these top tier universities. So, MIT, Penn State, Georgia Tech, right? These are sort of the universities that pioneer in a lot of like the educational trends that eventually trickle down to the community college, right? And so these specific universities have professors that are pioneering sort of the prompt engineering wave that we're experiencing. And they have taken the time to create actual certificate programs that students attending these universities can take that specifically look at and prepare students to be able to use these generative AI tools. And what they're saying is that, if you do any research on what these professors are doing is that AI is essentially being woven into the fabric of the curriculum that we're engaging in and some of the teaching methodologies in a way that is in fact promoting critical thinking, efficiency, and learning and equity for students who view AI as a free all access tutor. The research that we've done on incorporating AI into the classroom has consistently pointed to the fact that the option to incorporate into our classroom is becoming obsolete, right? And we mentioned that a couple of times already. And I'm going to show you a few studies we found to demonstrate why that is. So we'll go ahead and start with this Pearson study. This was done in June of 2024, so really recently, like within the last few months. And it reported, it took a group of 800 students nationally, and it looked at a couple of different things. So 51% of spring semester students said generative AI has helped them get better grades, and that's a 4% increase from the fall of 2023. 55% of spring semester students said generative AI has helped them be more efficient. So that's a 7% jump from the fall of 2023. And 44% of students are seeking tools that walk them through problems. Now, this is actually 51% of STEM majors. They want generative AI to give them sort of that step-by-step how-to that they might not have access to, when they're at home working out these problems after they've gotten back from class, right? And then nearly 60% of students are interested in trying new generative AI tools. So this kind of gives you an idea of how curious our students are and how excited that they are to sort of embrace this new technology and wanting professors to jump on that bandwagon as well. From that same study, we not only did we look at quantitative data, but we also looked at some of the qualitative data. And this is actually from, this quote stood out to me. It's actually from one of our neighboring colleges, Cerritos, a student named Anthony Gonzalez, who said, I felt much more prepared for class quizzes and exams all around, not to mention you could ask the AI study tool any question at any given time. And this really speaks to the idea that students aren't necessarily using it to cheat, but instead they're using it as this sort of universal educator and free tutor, which many of us didn't have access to growing up, right? Like I remember a time when I really could have used a computer that could walk me through a statistics problem or, give me ideas for a research paper when I was in community college, right? So I think, embracing this for really what it is and using it is going to be a really important part of the educational process across the board going forward. Moving on to another survey. So this particular survey was conducted by the Titan Partners. And because they were curious about what AI usage looked like when comparing students with their professors. So specifically, how are students using it in comparison with their professors? And this was data that I extracted from, it's called A Time for Class 2024, the State of Digital Learning and Courseware Adoption. These were surveys that were pooled over the course of a year from spring of 23 to spring of 24. And what I think is most important to point out is how students are outpacing faculty in terms of AI usage and understanding of the technology. And you can see in spring of 23, over 70% of faculty had some point attempted to use generative AI. But I think that was sort of due to the novelty, right? Because ChatGPT sort of blew up in November of 2022, right? And so this came out and everybody was sort of curious about it. So they were dabbling, right? But if you look at regular usage, so this is using it more than a couple of times a week, right? Or at least a couple of times a week, I want to say. If you look at regular usage, students are outpacing their professors by almost 20%. And what this translates to is that they're going to use the tool with or without the guidance from their professors, but without the guidance, they're probably not using it correctly, which is a problem, right? Because then this lends into the idea that students are cheating, not necessarily because they want to cheat, but because they want to use the tool and they don't know how to use it properly, right? And so it's important not only for us to learn how to use the tool, but helping students to understand how they're allowed to use the tools and what that looks like, in different classrooms, because that really can differ depending on the classroom.
And this can be a problem because if we take a look at this screenshot we took from Indeed, over the summer we did some research just seeing like, how does the job market look like? What are the job trends right now? So we got a hit with over 24,000 job descriptions where the word artificial intelligence were somewhere in the job description or in the job requirement. So we now know that students will be required to have some sort of AI knowledge when they go into the workforce. And employers are even stating that AI aptitude could rival experience. And research made by the Nielsen Normal Group found that people agree that AI is necessary, but that augmentation, not replacement, is the winning strategy. And AI should not supplant human creators, but rather empower them to be more creative and productive than they could ever be alone and better than AI itself could be on its own. So what we're finding now is that more than ever, it's imperative that we are equipping our students with AI skills as they're transitioning into the workforce. We believe this because we really don't want our students who have already experienced tremendous equity gaps to now walk away with yet another equity gap where you're seeing, those colleges and universities that are high end incorporating AI into their certificate programs. So we know that students that are going to those colleges, they're going to get this, and we want to make sure that our students get that as well. So if we go back to that Indeed slide, some of these jobs that are listed here are pretty obvious. Like maybe when you're looking at the word content creator and data analyst and maybe even engineer, you're going to think like, okay, well, that makes sense because we know that artificial intelligence can help with a lot of those tasks. But then you see jobs like sales associates or dentists, and you might wonder why in the world would a sales associate or a dentist ever need to know about AI? Well, a lot of even office environments, they are incorporating tools now into their systems that require us to have some sort of foundational knowledge and understanding of AI. Even this Zoom recording that we have right now has artificial intelligence within it. And a lot of the tools that we've been using as educators have started gaining those artificial intelligence concepts. Like our basic computers are now using it, word processors are using it, Grammarly are using it, all these tools that are readily available for both us just by having a computer and our students, they will have access. And so when you're looking at a job like a dentist, you're going to kind of understand, or you can easily understand the overlap there too, because they are using all of these different scheduling programs that is going to incorporate AI as well. So these tools have now started helping with things like diagnosis and treatment planning, scheduling appointments, creating personalized care, and analyzing patient data. So without having this basic understanding of what it is that you're looking at, our students are going to have this equity gap and they're going to fall behind. So at this point in our live presentation, we had this discussion activity. We're not going to obviously be able to do that here, but we wanted to show you what this looked like. So we had a discussion activity in regards to AI solutions and AI problems within the classroom environment. So we wanted our groups to focus on one problem that they know that they've experienced within their classroom environment, and then have the group collaborate and think about how you could overcome that one problem. In this document, which you have access to through our link tree, you can peruse the different problems that the groups came up with, and then also the solutions that they came up with.
We're going to move on to, talking a little bit about prompt engineering. And I think to get it started, it's important for us to understand how we can use them. And often this starts with understanding how to actually ask AI for help, right? So we thought this was kind of like a cute little quote that we found. Without a good AI prompt, it's like trying to get a cat to do math. It just won't happen. And probably the best example of this that I can use to kind of show alignment is that in my previous role at Cypress College, like I had mentioned, I was a coordinator for an affinity program, and I would oftentimes hire interns from similar master's programs than the one that I went into to help me with administrative tasks like scheduling appointments with students, or creating flyers, or creating newsletters to keep students updated on whatever it was that I needed. And I remember having to give them very specific and detailed instructions on how I wanted the materials that they created to look, right? Like I couldn't just say, make a flyer for this event. I had to show them templates and approved logos and colors that they were allowed to use, right? Because that is, I had a vision for a specific product, and I wanted to make sure that whatever the output that they created was going to match that vision, right? And that is very similar to how we're going to be using AI, is essentially as an administrative assistant, right? And it's going to need those really specific instructions. And one of the most effective ways that we can provide it with these instructions is through what we call prompting. So let's briefly go over what that is. Okay, so here we have the clarity model. And in the past, you guys have heard, if you've ever attended one of our AI workshops, we talk about the create model, which is also really good. But we found the clarity model over the past few months, and we felt like it aligned a little more with our goals here in education. So this is a little more straight to the point. So first you have C for context, and this is kind of providing it with some background knowledge, right? What kind of class are you teaching? What is the point of whatever the assessment that you're creating is? What are the student learning outcomes, so that it knows how to narrow down whatever the assessment that you're creating is, or how it's helping you build out your lesson plan or your lecture or whatever that may be. Length is also really important. So I oftentimes use ChatGPT to help me create scripts for my pre-recorded lectures, because I can just give it all of the information and I can say, okay, this is the information that I want to convey. Help me condense it into a 10-minute pre-recorded lecture. And that can go with anything, right? That can go with length of an assignment. I want students to create a 10-page paper, or I want to have an in-class activity that's no longer than 5 minutes. And so length is really important, because otherwise it might go off on a tangent, right? And then we have audience. So this is really important for professors who teach different types of classes, like whether that's like a 9th grade dual enrollment class, or if you're specifying a lesson plan for a 200 or a 300 level class. I know we don't really teach 300 level classes here at the community college, but I'm an adjunct over at CSUDH, so I do teach 300 level classes, and I'm sure that some of our other adjuncts do as well. And then relevance. So ensuring the prompt is relevant to the subject or task at hand. Now, this is really important, and this is where those student learning outcomes or those assignment objectives are going to come in a lot of handy, right? Because we don't create assignments just to create assignments. We create assignments because we want students to meet a certain learning outcome. And then instruction. So this is providing clear instructions on what is needed. That we've talked a lot about throughout different parts of this training topic. So clearly stating the topic or the subject matter, this kind of goes with context, right? So giving it some background, and then yield. So specify the expected outcome or result. And that will come in a lot of handy when we're talking about building rubrics. So what do we want students to get out of whatever the assignment, lesson plan, assessment is that we're doing?
And while all of these might sound complicated, it's actually rather simple. And many of our prompts that you will see in our prompt guide are actually pretty short. So even though you're seeing all of this information here on how to write these prompts, it doesn't mean that you're going to have to spend hours and hours or write a novel to get the prompt to do exactly what you want it to do. It's just a way for us to simplify how we think about our questions and our needs, and making sure that we have everything within our prompt so that we will get exactly what we are looking for without having to tweak it, 50 times. And what's cool about these is that we've actually also used this clarity model to create our own AI policies. So we're going to talk about that next. And we think that it's really important for all of us to have an AI policy for our classroom environment and on our syllabus. And I used the clarity model to help me create an AI policy within ChatGPT that I could actually agree with. And although this took some back and forward, and I had to remove and change several things until I got exactly what I wanted, because this is, it's a big thing, and I want to make sure that it is saying exactly what I want it to say. And so my starting point also came from several other AI policies that I had read about, or examples that I found within other classrooms, professors, and campuses. So I took some of these and used those as examples in my conversation with ChatGPT to get to my final version. And you can find a link to my classroom policy as well as links to other policies if you're interested in looking at those on our resource guide. So let's quickly talk about the overarching themes that I wanted to include in my policy. So here you can see it highlighted in bold. These would be my overarching themes. So I was using these when I created my policy. But the first thing that I mentioned in my AI policy is, and I quote, "In my class, you are welcome to use generative AI tools such as ChatGPT to enhance your learning experience. By adhering to the guidelines below, you will learn to use AI responsibly, which can enhance the quality of your assignments and deepen your understanding of sociology." So each of these bolded attributes that you are seeing, I do go into detail about each of these. So for example, the attribution and credit guidelines, this is just the title that I use. And then I have several bullets discussing exactly how I want my students to credit their assignments when they are having conversations with AI or finding information from AI, whether that is creating a picture or whether that is them helping them with a topic or actually generating some of the content that they are creating. I do need them to show me credit and attribute it to the AI tool that they have been using. And then I talk about things like fact checking and accuracy guidelines. And we will talk a little bit more about biases and hallucinations soon. And AI often come up with information that's not always true or accurate or is actually completely false. And so I make sure to talk about how that looks for my students. So I put it back on them and I say, if you are using an AI tool to help you write certain content, it is also up to you to fact check, because if you're providing me with incorrect content, then you are not going to pass that particular assignment. So it will be up to them to double check and fact check that the information that the AI is providing them is actually true and accurate. And then I have several several other things that I am also talking about. And again, if you're interested in looking at those, that will be within the resource guide.
Thank you, Zola. The first thing we wanted to ensure you are aware of is biases and hallucinations that occur in generative AI. And Zola talked a little bit about that, but we're going to get into a lot more detail. So to start off, we're going to discuss these and we're going to give you the tools with some sample assignments that you can use with your students to ensure that they understand and can critically analyze biases and hallucinations in AI-generated content. And while this isn't extremely common, it's still common enough to be harmful. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so biases happen as a result of training, and they often reflect the values of the person who is implementing the code for the model. Because bias is inherent in all information found on the internet, AI will reflect those biases because it can't think for itself. It can only use the information it was programmed to access. So there are two examples here that are those seen in facial recognition programs where these systems have been found to misidentify certain ethnic groups more frequently than other ethnic groups. And we've also seen bias in hiring algorithms where these programs often favor men over women and will lower ratings for resumes that name with names that are more stereotypically ethnic sounding. And there are some, ethical implications into using these types of programming, right? Because what it's doing is increasing those equity gaps for people of color or folks who are already marginalized. The other thing I found interesting was that a lot of these models are trained off of a reward system where they will give you the most desirable answer to whatever your question is according to the algorithm as a way of maximizing time spent on the app. And because we're getting the output we expect, we're more likely to return to that app. And you have to think about is oftentimes companies that have these LLMs are paid per click, right? And we're exposed to advertisements that accompany our experience. So it's just something to think about when you are talking, when you're having these conversations with these chatbots is, are they telling me what they think that I want to hear? And is that contributing to sort of the confirmation bias that I am creating as a result of these questions with these chatbots? Okay, so the University of Kansas Center for Teaching and Learning, Teaching and Excellence wrote an article on helping students understand biases on generative AI. And if you go to that page, you'll actually find a list of different types of biases. There's a really long list that have been discovered in LLMs. And then at the very bottom of the page, they have some sample assignments you can give students. We actually put all 5 of the sample assignments in our resource guide as well, so you don't have to go there if you don't want to. But I'm only going to talk about 2 of those sample assignments today. The first one is comparing chatbots. So here we have, a prompt that you could use is, create a prompt that all students must use to generate text with a chat bot, but have them try different bots, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and there's a whole humongous list that we have on our resource guide as well that you can use if you don't like any of those. But, once they use that prompt and they get the output from all of these different chatbots, you want to ask questions. What similarities and differences do they see in what the bots produce? What are some strengths and weaknesses? What types of biases are reflected? How would they rate the quality of writing? Did the bots provide references or sources? And if so, are they real or are they accurate? And then the second one I wanted to talk about is this screen for biases, which has students use generative AI to evaluate an article for biases, and it could be their own work or an article they find online. And this was actually something that Lynn Walsh, a journalist and an assistant director of the nonprofit site Trusting News, suggests using generative AI to spot biases in unpublished work, right? And she focuses on journalistic writing, but the same approach could be used in academic writing, right? Because a lot of it is not published. a possible prompt could be read the article and identify problems. And then you'd pick a couple of the biases that you wanted to see whether or not that article was targeting, and you would input that. And then you create a list of those problems explaining what each problem is and how it might be resolved, what sorts of biases, if any, do the chatbots flag, and do students see value in trying this with their own work in the future? And you'd be surprised, students are usually pretty open to this kind of thing.
Let's talk about AI hallucinations next. So AI hallucinations is the incorrect or misleading results generated by AI. So in addition to bias, there's also these like misleading or incorrect results that we get from AI. And these usually stem from 3 different areas. So the first one is insufficient training, which is essentially because all of our AI models, they are trained on specific data, and the data that they have been trained on might not have been exposed to sufficient or diverse data, leading to these inaccuracies or omissions. And then we have incorrect assumptions, where the models may make flawed assumptions about the data or context, which can result in incorrect outputs. And then biases in training data. So just like Ashley mentioned, there's a lot of biases present in our training data, and that might have to do with, the information that was available to the people who created this training data. But we find that biases that are present in training data tend to be amplified or perpetuated by AI models, which can lead to inaccurate or misleading information. And these can then manifest in various ways, where they will show up as fabricated information. So the generative AI models may produce entirely false or fictional content, often presented as factual, meaning, if you have a student that is working with AI and then this AI model is not entirely sure whether this information is correct, it's never actually going to tell your student, you should double check this data because this is just my interpretation, and this interpretation might be incorrect because there's just not enough information on the internet in regards to this. It's not going to tell your students that. So instead, it just presents it as factual, and we believe it. It's easy for us to believe it. And then you have misleading or incorrect interpretations. So the models may misinterpret or misrepresent the existing information, also leading to inaccurate conclusions. And then just simple lack of understanding. So some AI models may generate text or responses that appear coherent, but lack underlying knowledge or understanding of the subject matter. And I found this a lot in the beginning when I first started to introduce AI in my classroom, and I was still kind of tinkering with it and trying to figure out how to use it. I had students use AI for certain assignments. And I also would notice that students who had not gone through my training and then produced information generated by AI to hand into me, like I would read their examples or their assignments, and there was just no comprehension. There's no depth to the subject. There's no personal experiences. Everything was so surface that it really didn't make sense if you, as a subject matter expert, know what it is that possible outputs should look like, right? Or you've had assignments from students in the past, and the responses that you've gotten. And then we're also going to talk about how these AI hallucinations can look like. So these are what I call beautiful hallucinations because they're just funny. These are recent examples. So Google's Bard chatbot incorrectly stated that NASA's James Webb Telescope took the very first pictures of an exoplanet outside our solar system back in February of 2023, but there's already been pictures taken of exoplanets, I think dating back to the 77 or 1970s, sorry. And then another example is from ChatGPT, who had summarized H.P. Lovecraft's The Dragon. And although ChatGPT did accurately describe the plot, in this example, it went on to fabricate an entirely new ending. And then the last example is from Microsoft's AI-generated travel guide. So this travel guide comes up with all kinds of cool travel resources and things like that. But there was one issue where it included the Ottawa Food Bank. And for, you might not know about it, you might not have heard about it, but Ottawa the Ottawa Food Bank is just a food bank like the one at Cypress College or the one at Fullerton College, right? That is supporting folks who need food. And this travel guide had included it as a travel or tourist hotspot and attraction, and it encouraged visitors to come on an empty stomach, clearly not understanding the context or what the Ottawa Food Bank was. And then finally, this AI Stepify was something that I found within doing this research on my own. So as we've been putting this presentation together, I have used AI in some context to kind of condense some of the text that I've had or make sentences more coherent in some aspects. And so AI Stepify is one of the AI tools that we have included in the resource guide. And it's awesome for educators because it's essentially a tool that allows you to take a YouTube video, and it doesn't have to be your own, it can be any YouTube video. And then, so you post a link in AI Stepify, and that link will, or AI Stepify will then basically analyze that YouTube video, and then it will create like a content guide for your students. So it will tell you like a brief summary of what it's about, and then like an outline of the YouTube video and what you can expect. And it will even highlight things like key phrases and important things to pay special attention to in the video and things like that. But when I was generating the text, then ChatGPT told me that AI Stepify was a health and fitness focused tool that provides personalized workout plans, tracking physical activity, and offering health advice. And that sounds great. I totally need that, but that is not what this particular tool is for. So fact check, fact check, fact check. So even with all this access, it's not always great at doing research, and it's not always great at discerning between biases, but it is great at stating everything with really strong conviction. So these are the things that we want to point out both to you and to our students when we are discussing the use of AI within our classrooms. All right, so now that we've seen some hard proof that AI is dumb, here's the key: you're not. And we found this article from an infamous entrepreneur named Seth Godin. And we like this because it's helped us think about AI from a very different perspective. So let me read you the quote. ChatGPT is dumber than it looks. And that's not true for a screwdriver or a table saw or even a spatula. These are useful tools, but they don't pretend to be well informed or wise. They're dumb, and they look dumb too. And that's one reason that tools are effective. We use them to leverage our effort, but we don't trust them to do things that they're not good at. So essentially, what we get from this is that unless we recognize the tool for what it is, it's simply not useful. And if we're not respecting its limitation, we could happily accept it feeding us false information and guiding us in wrong directions. So until we can truly recognize that it isn't this all-powerful and all-knowing thing, we'll probably continue to be afraid of what it can actually do for us. But once we do start treating the tool for what it is, we'll realize that it really does require someone who's able to critically think and analyze, and that's you, right? You are the person who's able to do that, to use these tools successfully, and again, to be good with them. And so after the research that we've done alongside our own experiences of using AI in our classrooms, our own ability to critically think has far from diminished. Instead, what it's done, it's actually made us skeptics, and we now analyze everything that we get from AI. We fine tooth comb it to make sure that it's giving us the information that we want is.
Now that we've had a chance to talk about biases and hallucinations and to really understand generative AI for the tool that it is, right? That it's not supposed to take over our thought processes per se, but it's supposed to sort of enhance what we already know and supplement in areas where our strengths may not be. We're gonna show you a couple of our favorite tools and how we more or less work around those tools to be able to produce things like lesson plans and assessments and promote learning within our fully online classes or our hybrid classes or whatever that may be. And Zola is going to start off by showing you 3 in particular: Padlet, Diffit, and Magic School. And then I will talk about ChatGPT and Canva, which are my favorite tools. And I'll actually show you some step-by-step tutorials that I created that you'll be able to watch here, but then you can go back and you can use to create your own resources in your class.
All right, thank you. So the first tool that we will look at is Padlet. And so Padlet recently came out with some AI functionality within the tool. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview how that will look like. So on the screen here, you can see essentially just a snippet of a lesson plan that I created, not for my own topic, but for an entirely fictional, well, I guess the topic is real, but a fictional student learning objective. And I'm going to give you the prompt here. So, and I'm going to show you how this looks like in Padlet. But essentially, it's create a 90-minute lesson plan, and then we have XYZ learning outcome, and then include interactive videos, an individual assignment, a group assignment, and then a Padlet discussion and homework assignment. Also include any necessary resources such as articles. So when you first log into Padlet, you're going to have an empty home screen. Here you can see the 3 most recent ones that I have used. And then I just want to let you know that Padlet is what's called a freemium tool. So you get 3 free ones, and then what you can do is you can archive them. So I have like 20 Padlets in my archive, and then you can continuously create them. But you can only have 3 Padlets active at any given time. And then you would click the Make button. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to I don't need this one. So I'm just going to remove this one so I can show you how this looks like. So you just click Make, and then here you have a list of several different things that you can use. So you can see here there's an AI art studio in here. You have some AI recipes, so lesson planning, ideas for class activities, and things like that. So for this particular prompt, I would use and create in my lesson plans. I would click lesson planning, and then this was for an interior design course in higher education. And then I wrote my topic, which was space planning. And then I had my 3 fictional learning objectives. And then I posted this prompt in here. So again, that create a 90-minute lesson plan using these learning objectives. So I posted that in here, and then I clicked create. And then what happened was it created, let me see here. I'm gonna go back. It created this lesson plan. And as you can see, I have a video of myself in here, meaning I have just like tinkered with this particular one to see some of the cool tools that it has available. So it created, these were my 3 learning objectives that I used, and then it created the instructional activities. It even imported some YouTube videos in here, and then it created a theme of an assessment, an exit ticket, and homework assignments. And I also did this where I used one of their new functionalities, which is this talk for me. And I gave them a prompt, and then it created this audio that's a 1-minute audio that is talking about interior design and spatial relationships. So that was kind of cool too, that it can actually do these talking features for you. All right, and next I'm going to talk to you about DFID. Let me show you here. So this is just a quick overview of some of the things that DFID has within itself. So DFID is specifically a tool created for teachers, and I think you get like the premium account for 60 or 90 days or something like that once you first create, but then you still have options to use it fully. You just have a limit to how many a day you can use. So what I'm going to show you right now is what DFID is. So DFID is essentially a tool that can help you create supplemental activities for your students within your classes. So I'm going to take this text about pop culture, subculture, and then cultural change. So this would be a sociology text. So I'm just taking basically the information from an article, and then I am typing in any text or excerpt, but you can create from scratch. You can have an article or a YouTube video, any text or excerpt, and then you can just generate resource. I'm going to show you how that looks like. So I'm importing my information right here. If you have a PDF, you could upload that as well. And then I'm going to keep the original. I don't want it to change. But if I wanted to change this, like let's say that I am using this for a 200 level course, but then I also want to use it for my 8th grader dual enrollment students, then I could just click 8th grade, and then this original text right here would change for to accommodate the reading levels of an 8th grader versus someone who's graduated high school, right? But I'm going to keep the original, and I'm going to keep the English and the English language, but you can change this if you want to do that. And then I'm going to click generate resource, and this is just going to take a couple of minutes here, or probably not even that. And then you have all these pictures that you could choose on, since this was on pop culture, subcultures, and then cultural change. And then it has the reading in here. It gives me a summary of the text, and then it gives me some key vocabulary words. But if I want to add any words, I can do that. It also gives me these like quick multiple choice questions. So if you wanted to create a quiz from your text, this can do that for you, and you can add questions. You can create them yourself, or you can just ask DFID to continue creating additional questions. It also has the short answer questions and then open-ended prompts. But what I want to show you right now is how to actually get student activities. So DFID creates all these awesome student activities. So it has basic, summarized learning, vocabulary, reading strategies, writing strategies, and more. And so you can kind of take a look at all these different ones that it gives you. So let's say that I want to have a discussion workbook for my students. And so now it has created basically this activity, and you can use this within a class. So like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? The vocabulary words, and if you had added more, they would show up here as well. Discussion, so preparation, so reading and taking notes. This is some of those notes that it wants you to think about, level questions. So, and it does this for a number of different activities and resources. So DFID is really cool if you want to do something different within your classroom environment. And you can print, all of this or just some of it, or you can even export the activity to make it a Google Slides or a Google Docs workbook, and you can provide those to your students. So if you don't want to print it, they can do that in Google Slides or Google Docs. It depends on which format. So you have different format options here, depending on how you want to export it. Okay, And then lastly, I'm not going to show you Magic School and go into it the way that I just did with Padlet and Diffit. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of another tool that's called Magic School. So Magic School has a ton of different applications. It's like a suite of applications. So these are just a few of the ones that are available. I think you have like another 20 options or something like that. But I like these because, again, they have things like survey creators. If you're wanting to do that, they can generate questions from a YouTube video if you need anything. They can help you with lesson planning, and they have things like professional emails. So if you're ever, you have a bad day, you're just feeling frustrated and you're getting all of these crazy response or requests and you just maybe can't keep your cool, because that has happened to me, then it's awesome to have something like a professional email generator where you can plug in what the request of the email has been, and you can use that and then provide it some context, and then it can give you a professional sounding email that takes all your frustration or anger or whatever out of it. All right, so Ashley.
Thanks, Sola. So I am going to talk about Canva and ChatGPT. And personally, I'm a huge fan of Canva. So much of what I incorporate creativity-wise into my class, whether it's building a syllabi, creating slide presentations, or developing assignments, is done through Canva. But what's really cool is they've come up with their own version of generative AI, which streamlines the process of creating a lot of these useful documents. So, if you go into the apps, which I'll be sharing in the video that I'm about to show you, you can see that there are a bunch of useful apps that will create stunning imagery, translate text into different languages, and will elaborate on much of the different concepts, just like ChatGPT would. So I'll go ahead and show you the video. And just a reminder, you don't have to scroll all the way through this Keynote to try to find the video. The video is listed on the link tree at the very bottom, both of the videos that we're going to show you. Hey there, educators. Today we're going to talk about Canva Magic Design and some really cool AI apps that will help you specialize any lesson plan or project. Let's go ahead and get started. Once you log into Canva, on your homepage, there is a menu on the left-hand side, and you can go ahead and click on Magic Studio, and it takes you to the Magic Studio page where you'll see that you can create flyers, you can edit videos, and today we're going to look at how we create presentations. So if you just go ahead and click on the middle button, and then it'll give you a short set of instructions, and you go ahead and click on Magic Design. I would say to keep it simple, you usually render better results. I'm going to do Darwin and the Theory of Natural Selection. Click on Enter, and now it's thinking. So you can see that Magic Design has come up with a couple of selections here, and if you click on this button, See All, there are several different styles to choose from. I'm going to just click on the first one. Okay, maybe I don't like the colors, or maybe I don't like the images. So you can kind of click through and see which ones are your favorite. I think I like this blue one. And then you're going to click on this Apply All 7 Pages. Okay, so you click on that and you can scroll through. You can see that each one of the slides has a different color scheme. It has different explanations. We have a little quote from Darwin. Now, let's say I want to talk about survival of the fittest in more detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and you can see here that this gives you the option for Magic Write. Okay, so I'll select Magic Write, and then I'll select this Continue Writing, and voila! It gives you a whole explanation of survival of the fittest. Now, I do caution everybody to make sure to read through this and ensure that the information is accurate, that you're citing your sources, right? Because we do know that generative AI has the tendency to create hallucinations or things that are untrue based on their algorithms. So make sure you're checking for that. What if I decide that I absolutely hate this picture of Darwin? So I'm going to go to the apps selection and I'm going to click Magic Media. And here is the icon for Magic Media. You're just going to select that. And then I put in Charles Darwin to see if there's a better image that Canva can come up with. And voila, we have 4 images of Charles Darwin. I delete that. I really like this image, or maybe I like another one, and you can just add it. You can resize it. You can change the font. You can change the colors. Maybe you prefer a softer color or maybe something more vibrant. There is one other image app that is really cool. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called DALL-E and it's connected to ChatGPT and OpenAI. So we're going to just give that a try. We're going to put different finches that Charles Darwin may have seen at the Galapagos. Galapagos Islands. Let's see. What does it come up with? You're going to click on Generate and give it a minute. Okay, so here it's come up with a whole bunch of different finches that he may have seen. Some of them look a little funky. This one in the upper left-hand corner looks a little weird. But just to give you an idea, these are the types of things that you can use for the image generators, and it's a really cool way to kind of explore and make the aesthetics of your presentation look really nice. The last really cool feature that I wanted to show you guys with Canva Magic Design is their Translate Text option. So if you go to any slide and you click on one of the text box and then you right click again, you can scroll down to the bottom and you'll see Translate Text, and you're going to click on that. And then you have options on this side, so you can pick both text boxes. You can also do translate pages, which would translate every single slide that has writing on it. But today, I'm going to just show you this slide. Once you have which ones you want selected, you can go up here and you can pick any language. So Spanish, they have French, Russian, Punjabi, they have Tagalog, they have Zulu, anything you want. I'll stick with Spanish since that's a pretty common language here in the US. And then you would go down and you would click on Translate and you'd give it a minute. And you'll see that now I have both the English slide version and I have a slide with the Spanish text on it as well. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked this tutorial and you want to see more just like it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Higher Ed Vlog Spot. See you soon. Okay, so that just gives you a tidbit or idea of what Canva Magic Design has to offer. There's actually a lot of other functionalities that I didn't have the time to go over, but I encourage you, if you're a fan of Canva or if you want to get to know Canva, to make a free account and start playing with it, because it can be really cool in terms of building creative things for your class. The next thing I wanted to talk about is ChatGPT, and a lot of folks don't know that this is more than just a chat feature. So DALL-E, which I mentioned, is now part of the Canva apps, was originated from ChatGPT. And if you have the paid version, you can create more images than you would be able to do in Canva. The images are also varied, so I can ask it to regenerate or rework an image several times to my liking, which you may not be able to do in Canva. With the paid version, I can also create charts and graphs So for someone who likes to visualize the data, I'm attempting to interpret it's a big time saver to do it through ChatGPT instead of through Excel or Google Sheets or even through Canva, because Canva has that functionality as well. And lastly, I use it to build my rubrics, and it will quite literally build the table with the rows and the columns and the values. So that is going to be the next video that I show you. And again, you can access this if you think this is pretty cool and you want to know a step-by-step, you can access the video in our link tree, and you can also access the PowerPoint with the 5 steps broken down so that you can see that, because sometimes visually that's easier to read it, right? So go ahead and cue it up, Zola. Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Berry and welcome to the Higher Ed Institute YouTube channel. Today you're going to learn how to build an effective rubric in ChatGPT in 5 easy steps. So let's get started. Step 1 will have you clearly define the assignment or task for which you need the rubric. So things like outlining the main objectives and expectations. And for the purpose of this tutorial video, we're going to use a research paper. Step 2 will have you identifying key criteria that you will use to assess whatever the assignment is. So in the case of a research paper, this would be things like the introduction, the thesis statement, evidence and support, organization, grammar, conclusion, and so on and so forth. For step 3, we will be determining levels of achievement. And typically rubrics have 4 to 5, which include excellent, good, satisfactory, needs improvement, and poor. Step 4 of this process, which is describe each level, is where ChatGPT comes in really great handy, and let me show you how that is. So here you can see that I have engineered a prompt to ask ChatGPT to describe the characteristics of an excellent introduction for a research paper. So let's input it and see what ChatGPT generates. I went ahead and copy pasted that sample prompt that I had on my PowerPoint, and I'll go ahead and put it below in the comments in case you'd like to use it as well. You can see that ChatGPT is producing criteria for excellent, good, satisfactory, and needs improvement. I don't always get exactly what I want in the first go, but this is always a really good jumping off point for me. Now for our 5th and final step, we are going to ask ChatGPT to create values using all of that key criteria that we just created and to actually build it within a table so you can just go ahead and copy paste it right into your assignment. So here you can see that I have my prompt for ChatGPT, which is this research paper is worth 100 points and each of the criteria I'm evaluating is worth up to 20 points. Create a rubric in the form of the table that breaks down each criteria and the corresponding performance levels with their description. And then you can see I have intro, data analysis, organization and formatting, reference and citations, grammar and spelling. And I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste that prompt into ChatGPT and it'll scroll down for me, and then it will go ahead and create that handy dandy table with all of my criteria and my values at the top and all of those explanations. And you can just copy paste that and put it into a Word doc or into your Canvas or whatever learning system that you're using. If you like this video, make sure to like, follow, and share for more tutorials. Thanks for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed that video and got something out of it. Please give it a try because it's a humongous time saver to build rubrics through ChatGPT. And like I said, it does all of it for you. You really just have to tell it what to do, right? But we're going to go ahead and move on. So now that you've learned about the impact of AI on education and employment, we've talked about our favorite tools, we've talked about biases and hallucinations, how to craft an AI policy. I want you to consider how you yourself are going to incorporate all of this knowledge into your own classrooms. And how will you choose to engage with these tools to enhance the learning prospects of your own students? Because even if the technology is unnerving or mysterious, we already know at this point it can't be ignored. And I hope you're not feeling too overwhelmed, but if you are, don't be, okay? We've created a wealth of resources for you to kind of take advantage of on your AI journey. So make sure to use those and refer back to them when you're feeling lost. And also to remember just, a couple of things going back to Mark Godin and his little quote, don't ignore AI because it's dumb, right? Instead, understand how and where it works well to help you be more effective than you could be without it. Because let's think about it in the way that AI is multidisciplinary. It's looking at the information you're presenting with multiple different lenses. So it can offer a perspective that you yourself may not have considered. And then you're going to want to ask it specific and defined questions where you can easily inspect the results, right? So remember that you're still in control. Just because AI says something doesn't mean that you should let it make your decisions. And you use it instead to challenge your views or broaden your options. Make sure you're taking advantage of the fact that it doesn't have feelings and that you're using its honesty to get useful feedback. So this is a really great way to challenge your own biases. For instance, when grading short essays, responses, or reflections, having ChatGPT offer up a second opinion and point out things we may or may not have seen when reading the material and comparing it with our assignment objectives and student learning outcomes. Now that you have an idea of how to use AI, we want to talk about how other professors are teaching their students to use AI ethically. And here are some sample assignments that are currently being used in other classrooms that demonstrate how students can work alongside these AI tools to produce more effective and streamlined work. We found this one. So this is from Angela Seaworth of Texas A&M, and she implemented this into her fundraising class. She has students write their own donor and thank you notes, and she then has them ask ChatGPT to write one, and they compare both of them. And she asked them to select which one they would use. Most students choose their own due to the personal nature of the letters. This helps to emphasize that there are certain aspects of many of the jobs we take on that require a human touch and knowledge of the working relationship we have with other people, but it also allows students to see whether they've left anything out of their own versions that might be useful or important to incorporate.
Okay. And then another assignment that I thought was pretty awesome. This is one that I attended the online teacher conference over the summer, and I went to a session by Samantha Garagliano and Lynn Dickinson, and they had an AI presentation, and they offered up this prompt and kind of experience for the student that I really enjoyed. So what they're doing is basically they take any assignment that they have within their classroom that they have a specific student learning outcome for, and then they don't require the student to turn it in a one particular way, and they offer it up as a way for students to kind of explore both how to use ChatGPT or another LLM, but then also like how can they incorporate their own learning experiences, preferences, and interests into the course environment itself. So what they do is they gave the student this quote, and you can use it within, your classroom environment too, as long as you have an assignment that you don't really care how the student is showing that they're meeting that objective, as long as they're meeting that objective. So, for my course, for an example, this prompt would look like, I am a student in an introduction to sociology course, currently studying the topic of, let's say, social structures. I'm looking for creative and effective ways to showcase my understanding on, again, social structures following these student learning outcomes. And then they would plug in the student learning outcome that you have given them that align with my interests and learning style. And then the student would then proceed to say, my interests include, and then they would mention a couple of interests or 1, 2, 3 interests, and then their learning style. So if they are visual or auditory or however they tend to learn. And then please suggest 3 projects that they could choose from. And so they worked with ChatGPT to create 3 different projects, and then they would show the instructor this particular project or the 3 different ones, and then the instructor would be like, yeah, that works. You can do that, so that the instructor knew exactly what was coming from that student. And so that was just a great way, I thought, for students to start learning to use ChatGPT and for them to actually incorporate it into their own assignments, but then also then connecting their own interests with the topic that you are currently teaching.
Right. And just so you know, by the way, those are only 2 sample assignments, but we have, I believe it's 4, right? We have 4 sample assignments on our resource guide. So check those out as well, because those are super interesting. But we wanted to go ahead and just wrap up this keynote by reminding you of a couple of things. So the most important thing isn't that you know every single tool that's out there. That's a full-time job, right? Instead, start small. Pick 1 or 2 that you're interested in that seem like they'd be a good fit for your class, and slowly start to play with it. And you don't have to change everything at once. Just pick something you find interested, learn how to use that tool that you can help you best, and also don't expect it to be able to do everything, because even tools that claim to do several different things sometimes are better at doing one thing than they are at doing something else. And you'll learn that as you use the tools, like you'll get an idea of what that is. We also want you to consider signing up for an AI newsletter. Some of our favorites are listed on our AI resource document, so check those out, because they're always like sending updates about tools and about, you know, how AI is evolving. And it's just good to kind of keep abreast to what those changes look like, because I feel like, you know, the educational landscape in general is just rapidly evolving, and that's part of it. And then just do it, like Nike, just do it, right? There simply is no better way of learning a tool than picking one you think you would be beneficial to your subject and start using it at least once a week, or for various tasks and activity. And that's how I've gotten good at any tool that I've been able to learn my way around, whether it's navigating Canva, or, you know, learning how to do pre-recorded lectures on Camtasia, or building super creative assignments on Canva, or, you know, any one of the other tools, Diffit, Padlet, right? We just use it, right? And not fear not being able to figure out how to use it, because there's always a learning curve with every tool you use, whether it's AI or not. So that kind of wraps up our keynote, and we hope you got some value out of it and some different things. And we want to just invite you know, any faculty with lingering questions, or, you know, feeling like they want to learn about something in particular, or they want us to point out some more resources for them, to reach out to us and to, you know, check out that resource guide. Feel free to reach out to us. We are always here to answer, you know, any of your questions and to help you along this AI journey.
Yes, thank you so much. Our contact information will be included in that link tree as well. So please reach out to us if you have any questions or any follow-ups that you would like to do.
Thank you.